The wind swept through the canyon the way it always did at dusk, hot, restless, carrying dust and stories. Folks around Red Mesa used to say the canyon had its own guardian, a giant Navajo woman who could break a man's pride faster than she could break his bones. Most laughed it off as frontier gossip. The smart ones didn't. That afternoon proved the legend was alive. 4 men lay moaning in the dirt, their guns scattered among torn saddlebags. A fifth stood frozen, watching the tall woman who had dropped his buddies like sacks of grain. She hadn't even bothered to draw a weapon. Her name was Niley Graywin, taller than any of them, shoulders broad, eyes like the edge of flint. She moved like water sliding over rock, fluid, unstoppable, unbothered. High on the ridge above, Lorenzo Rojas watched from horseback. One hand rested lightly on his mare's neck, calming the animal while dust swirled below. He'd heard whispers of the woman who guarded this canyon, how she let no settler, no outlaw, no soldier cross without her say-so. Watching her now, he understood why men called her unbreakable. But what held his attention wasn't her strength. It was her control. Every punch, every motion carried precision, measured, deliberate, almost merciful. Around her neck hung a leather cord with a small turquoise stone bound in silver wire. When it caught the sun, Lorenzo's chest tightened. He knew that design. He'd seen one just like it before, around his mother's neck. Niley turned, sensing him long before she saw him. Their eyes met across the open space of the canyon. The world fell still for a breath. Then she smiled, not kindly, but like a challenge thrown across the wind. The surviving man dropped his gun and ran. The others crawled after him. Niley didn't chase. Fear did the work better than bullets ever could. By nightfall, the story would spread again. How the Navajo woman ruled the pass like a spirit of vengeance. How no man matched her. How trying meant humiliation or worse. She'd built that reputation on purpose. Every rumor kept her people safer from the endless tide of settlers who believed Navajo land was theirs to take. Her body was a barrier, her legend a wall. But tonight, a stranger had been watching, and that unsettled her more than the outlaws ever could. She picked up a dropped canteen, the metal dented from boot prints. The sound of hooves echoed faintly above her. She didn't look up. She'd known for 15 minutes that he was there. She could feel his gaze the way one feels sunlight on skin. Most men looked away when she noticed them. Not this one. He sat easy in the saddle, dark hair catching the light, posture calm as still water. Something about that quiet confidence irritated her more than open defiance ever did. When he finally descended the slope, she straightened, one hand near the knife on her belt. Not a threat yet, just readiness. "The pass is closed," she called, her English touched by only the lightest accent. "Turn around." "I can't do that." His voice carried steady through the hot air. He stopped his horse about 20 feet away, far enough to show respect, close enough to speak without shouting. "I've got medicine that needs to reach the settlement past your canyon. The children there are sick. Not my concern. I figured you'd say that." He dismounted slowly, keeping his hands visible. "But I'm asking anyway. I don't want trouble. Trouble found you when you came here." She stepped forward, the sand whispering under her boots. For a big woman, she moved with unnerving quiet. "Every man who crosses this land thinks he's got a good reason," she said. "They all think their reasons matter more than what we protect." "Maybe mine does," he answered. "Maybe because kids are dying, and this land is the only road that gets the medicine there in time." Her jaw tightened. He wasn't begging, but he wasn't backing down either. "I'm not asking you to give up what you guard," he said. "Just asking you to let mercy pass through." Now he stood close enough that she could see flecks of gold in his brown eyes, smell the mix of sage and dust on his clothes. He watched her with the kind of focus that read a person rather than just looked at them. His stance, his breathing, the relaxed way his hand hung near, but not on his gun. The calluses on his palms told of work, not war. "You're different," she said finally. It didn't sound like praise. "That makes you dangerous. Or maybe less. Guess we'll find out." He turned his back on her then, deliberately. "A provocation or a test. You can try to stop me, but first prove you're as strong as they say." "I'm not interested in fighting you," Lorenzo said quietly. That stopped her. Every man she'd met had wanted to test himself against her, to prove something, to conquer. This one didn't. "Then what are you?" she asked. "Someone who knows there's more than one kind of strength. The words hung between them like the dry heat, heavy with meaning neither fully understood. Her instinct screamed to push him away, to reassert control, but something deeper, older, made her pause. "You don't pass just for clever talk," she said, though her voice had lost a little of its edge. "Didn't think I would." He nodded toward the supplies scattered in the sand. "While we talk, mind if I check what those men left behind? Might be something useful." She watched him crouch beside the abandoned packs, sorting through them with quick, practiced hands. He moved like a man who'd lived hard enough to value every scrap. When he found a water skin, he offered it to her first before taking a drink himself. The small gesture twisted something inside her chest, annoyance or something else. This is going to be complicated, she thought. And she had no idea that before the sun set twice more, everything she believed about strength, about men, about herself, would be stripped bare. Naili broke the silence first. "Where did you learn to act like a Navajo?" The question came sharper than intended. He glanced up, squinting against the sun behind her. "My mother. She lived with the Chirika band for 4 years before I was born. Taught me respect isn't the same as submission." That caught her off guard. She'd expected excuses or lies. Men always gave one or the other. "Your mother was captured?" she asked. "Taken in," he corrected. "She was sick, dying probably. They found her near their border and chose mercy over fear. She never forgot that." Naili looked away, the ground shifting under her assumptions. Her fingers brushed the amulet at her neck, the turquoise stone wrapped in silver wire. She'd found it by the river 2 seasons ago and worn it ever since. It had felt right, protective. "That stone," Lorenzo said quietly, his gaze fixed on her throat. "Where did you get it?" "Found it. My mother made one like it," he murmured. "Gave it to the healer who saved her life." Naili's breath caught. Her grandmother, the tribe's healer, had died 3 winters ago. "The healer you're talking about," she said softly. "She was my grandmother." His expression flickered. Pain, recognition, something like relief. "Then she raised you. She taught me strength. She taught me to protect what matters, no matter the cost." "She taught my mother the same thing," Lorenzo said, stepping closer. He didn't ask permission. "She told her the strongest people are the ones who know when to fight and when to heal." Those words hit Naili like a hand to the chest. Precise, unexpected, infuriating. "What's your point?" "My point is, you're already stronger than you need to prove," he said. "Which makes me think you're proving it to yourself, not to them." Heat flared behind her eyes. Anger or something dangerously close to understanding. "You don't know anything about me. I know your grandmother wouldn't want you turning away mercy. Don't use her memory to manipulate me." "It's not manipulation," he said evenly. "It's truth." He didn't flinch when she stepped into his space, using her height to intimidate. "You can send me back," he said quietly. "You can make me take the long way around, 3 more days' ride, but you'll know what choice you made, and why." Now they stood close enough that she could see the small scar above his left brow, count the shades of brown in his eyes. He didn't move forward, didn't retreat, just stood there, steady, present. Her pulse kicked hard. "One night," she said through clenched teeth, "you camp here. Tomorrow I decide if you pass." He nodded once. "Fair. And don't touch anything. Don't wander. Don't test my patience." "Understood." She turned away, meaning to leave distance between them. Instead, she found herself pausing, feeling his gaze like a weight on her back. Not predatory, not fearful, just aware, like a storm brewing behind her or a fire burning too close to ignore. She didn't know it yet, but watching him would be the beginning of the end of every wall she'd ever built. The desert night dropped fast, the way it always did once the sun slid behind the redstone cliffs. Within minutes, the heat that had baked the canyon all day drained away, leaving the air sharp and cold. A thin line of smoke curled from Lorenzo's small campfire, the only flicker of warmth in the endless dark. Naili kept her distance at first. She stood on a rise above him, her silhouette cut clean against the moonlight. She was watching, not hiding, just guarding. He figured she'd done that her whole life. Lorenzo stirred beans in a dented tin pot and spoke without looking up. "You planning to stare holes through me all night, or you gonna sit?" A long silence, then soft footsteps in the sand. She stopped a few feet from the fire. "I said you could camp," she reminded him. "Not that we'd share supper." "Fair enough," he said, breaking the bread in half. "But food tastes less like dirt when you've got company." Something about the way he said it, not cocky, not pleading, made her lower her guard half an inch. She sat cross-legged, the firelight throwing amber across her skin. The canyon walls glowed behind her like the inside of a forge. For a while they ate without words. The sounds of the desert filled the quiet. Coyotes yipping in the far hills, wind hissing through the brush. Lorenzo poured her coffee from the pot, black and strong enough to wake the dead. She took it, surprised by her own curiosity. "You ride through this country often?" "Mostly the long way around," he said. "I carry medicine and mail between the settlements. Don't make much money, but folks remember your face when you bring their hope in a bottle." "You think hope fits in a bottle?" "Sometimes, when it's the right kind." That answer made her glance at him again. His face in the firelight looked older than his years, worn in the way honest work carves a man. There was sadness there too, the kind that doesn't fade, only settles in quiet places. "My grandmother used to say the same thing," she murmured. "The healer?" She believed medicine had spirit, that healing was a kind of promise. You give part of yourself so someone else can keep breathing. He nodded slowly. "Sounds like her and my mother would have agreed on more than one thing." The mention of his mother pulled her eyes to the turquoise at her throat. The little stone gleamed like captured moonlight. "You really think this belonged to her?" "I don't think," he said. "I know. My mother made two of them. One stayed with her, the other she gave away. The wire, see how it twists left before it wraps right? That was her mark. She touched the amulet unconsciously. The thought of that connection, of two lives tied by a single act of mercy, unsettled her. The desert felt smaller suddenly, like the world had folded in on itself. "You said she was dying when my grandmother found her," Naomi said. "Did she ever go back to her own people?" "She tried," Lorenzo answered. "But folks back east don't take kindly to stories about being saved by those they call savages. She stayed here. Said this land had claimed her once. Might as well keep her." "She was right," Naomi said quietly. "The land keeps what it touches." They fell into silence again. The fire cracked, throwing sparks into the cold air. Finally, Lorenzo asked, "How long you been guarding this canyon?" "Since the soldiers came 3 winters ago. They burned 2 villages north of here. After that, I decided nobody crossed without permission. So you became judge and gatekeeper." "I became necessary." He studied her face, the hard lines carved by wind and worry. "That's a heavy job for one person." She shrugged. "Better me than someone who'd use it for cruelty." "You ever get tired?" he asked. She shot him a look. "Of what?" "Of holding the whole damn world on your shoulders." Naomi didn't answer, but the question hit home deeper than he knew. For the first time she looked away, toward the dark mouth of the canyon she protected. The silence that followed wasn't anger. It was the kind of quiet that comes when truth cuts too close. Later, after the fire burned low, Lorenzo spread his blanket near the embers. Naomi stayed sitting, watching the stars ripple across the black sky. "Do your people still believe the spirits walk these canyons?" he asked drowsily. "They don't walk," she said. "They wait. They watch who remembers them." He smiled at that. "Then I hope they're watching kindly tonight." "They don't judge kindness," she said, "only honesty." He liked that answer. Sleep took him before he could say so. Dawn came painted in copper and rose. Lorenzo woke to the smell of smoke and movement. The woman already on her feet, packing the scattered remains of the night. "Decided anything yet?" he asked, stretching the chill from his bones. She didn't answer right away. Her eyes scanned the canyon mouth, the same way a hawk studies ground before diving. Finally, she said, "There's a storm coming. You'll ride half a day before the wind hits. After that, travel's impossible." "Then I should get moving." She nodded. "I'll escort you to the ridge. After that, the trail's yours." He blinked. "You're letting me through?" "I'm letting the medicine through," she corrected. "Don't make me regret it." They started up the narrow trail, her on foot, him leading the horse to keep the pace. The air smelled of sage and rain not yet born. The land stretched in layers of gold and rust, the sun catching every edge. Halfway up, Lorenzo said, "You ever wonder what you'd be if you weren't guarding this place?" She glanced at him, one brow raised. "You mean if I'd been born a man? I mean if the world had let you choose?" That stopped her for a heartbeat. "The world doesn't let women like me choose. It just tells us who we have to be." He looked at her profile, strong and calm against the climbing light. "Then maybe it's time somebody told the world to go to hell." That earned him the smallest smile, a flicker, gone as soon as it came. When they reached the ridge, The wind picked up, whipping her braids against her back. She scanned the horizon like she could read it. "From here," she said, pointing north, "the path curves around the canyon rim. It'll take you past the dead cottonwood, then down toward the river flats. Follow that until you see a stone shaped like a horse's head. Beyond it, the land is open." He studied her instead of the trail. "You really aren't coming. This is as far as I go." He wanted to argue, but the look in her eyes stopped him. It wasn't anger. It was duty carved deep. "Thank you," he said simply. "Save your thanks for the children." He hesitated, then reached into his saddlebag and drew out a small pouch. Inside was another turquoise stone, rough cut and unpolished. "My mother left this for the woman who saved her. I think maybe it's found its way home again." Niley looked down at the stone resting in her palm. For a moment, the canyon seemed to hum. Wind through bone, memory through time. "Your mother had good hands," she said softly. "So does her student." Their eyes met one last time. Then he swung into the saddle. As he started down the trail, she called after him, "Cowboy!" He turned. "Every choice has a cost," she said. "Make sure this one's worth it." He tipped his hat. "If it saves a child, it always is." The sky darkened quicker than she expected. She stood there long after he vanished into the distance, the turquoise stone glowing faintly in her palm. When the first rumble of thunder rolled through the canyon, she finally turned back toward her camp. The wind carried the scent of rain and something else, change. For the first time in years, she felt uncertain about what tomorrow would bring. That uncertainty frightened her more than any gun ever had, because it wasn't weakness she felt stirring inside. It was curiosity. And behind curiosity waits everything that can remake a life. By late afternoon, the storm had rolled in from the east, carrying the smell of wet dust and electricity. Lightning split the sky in crooked veins. Thunder chased it close behind. Niley tightened the flap of her shelter, listening to the wind lash across the canyon rim. Somewhere out there, the cowboy would be fighting through the rain, pushing that medicine forward. She told herself it didn't matter. He'd chosen his road, she'd chosen hers. But when the second thunderclap came, sharper, closer, another sound followed. A scream. Human. Niley's body moved before her mind caught up. She grabbed her knife and bolted into the rain. The canyon that had looked endless under sunlight now felt narrow and alive, walls flashing white with lightning. Water ran in ribbons down the rock face, turning sand to mud. The cry came again, from deeper in the pass. She ran toward it, feet slipping but steady. When she rounded a bend, she saw the cause. Part of the cliff had given way. Two figures were pinned beneath a tangle of fallen stone. An older woman and a younger man, barely more than a boy. "Kojana," Nayeli gasped. They were her kin, her cousin and his grandmother. She dropped to her knees beside them. "Don't move," she ordered, testing each slab with cautious fingers. The boy's face was gray, his breathing shallow. The older woman's leg was twisted unnaturally beneath a boulder the size of a wagon wheel. A shadow moved through the rain behind her. Lorenzo. He'd heard the screams too. He was soaked to the bone, mud up to his knees, but his eyes were steady. "Tell me what to do." She didn't ask why he'd turned back. There was no time. "This rock first," she said, pointing. "But if we move it wrong, the rest will come down." He scanned the debris, his brain already calculating. "We need to prop the smaller ones before we lift. Distribute the weight." "Prop them with what?" "My saddle frame, the wooden beams in my pack." She nodded once. "Do it." They worked fast, muscles straining, voices low against the wind. Lorenzo wedged the frame under a leaning stone while Nayeli pressed her shoulder against the main boulder. Rain ran down her face like tears she didn't have time to feel. "On three," he said, placing his hands beneath the edge. "1, 2, 3. She lifted with a sound that was half roar, half prayer. Her back arched. The boulder shifted. Lorenzo reached in, dragged the older woman free, and they both fell backward into the mud as the rock crashed down again, missing them by inches. For a long second, neither moved. Then the woman moaned, a weak, living sound. "She's breathing," Lorenzo said, breathless. Neely leaned over her, checking the pupils, the pulse. "Broken leg, head hit. She needs warmth." The boy groaned from the rubble beside them. "Kojana," she whispered, crawling to him. He was trapped from the waist down. "Don't move," Lorenzo warned. "The rocks above are holding each other up. One wrong pull and—" "We can't leave him," Naomi snapped. I didn't say we would. We'll do it right. He ran for his pack, returning with canvas and rope. They worked through the downpour, bracing the loose stones, inching weight off the boy piece by piece. Their hands bled from the rough edges, but neither slowed. When at last the final slab gave way, Lorenzo slid his arms under Kohana's shoulders. Got him, he grunted. Easy now. Together they dragged him clear. His legs were mangled but intact. Niley wrapped them tight with strips torn from her own blanket, her movements precise, almost surgical. Lorenzo noticed her hands trembling only once, when she brushed mud from the boy's face. By the time they carried both victims beneath an overhang, the storm had softened to steady rain. Lightning still flashed beyond the cliffs, but the worst had passed. Niley crouched beside the older woman, speaking softly in Navajo, her words rhythmic and low. Lorenzo knelt across from her, mixing salve from his medicine kit. They worked like they'd done this all their lives together. No commands, no confusion, just instinctive rhythm. When the boy's breathing evened out, Lorenzo leaned back exhausted. They'll make it, he said. Niley looked up at him. The firelight from their small lantern glowed against her soaked skin, turning the droplets to gold. You saved my family. He shook his head. We saved them. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The storm hissed beyond the rock, but between them a different kind of silence settled, one that felt like understanding. Hours later, the rain stopped completely. They had moved the wounded to a hidden shelter deeper inside the canyon, a place Nayeli's tribe used during harsh winters. As she spread a blanket over her cousin, she sensed movement in the darkness behind her. The tribe, she whispered. Figures stepped into the light, men and women of her people, bows drawn, eyes sharp. The first among them, a gray-haired elder, glared at Lorenzo. What is this outsider doing here? He helped save them, Niley said quickly. By bringing the storm upon us, the elder shot back. No stranger crosses our borders without reason. I chose to let him pass, she replied. The elder's stare hardened. Then his trespass is yours to answer for. Lorenzo started to rise, but Nayeli's hand on his shoulder stopped him. He carries medicine for sick children, she said. He's not our enemy. Her words carried weight, enough to make the archers hesitate. Finally, the elder exhaled. One night, he said, he helps the injured, then leaves before sunrise. No word of our camp leaves his lips. That's all he wants, Nayeli said. Lorenzo nodded in agreement. I'll keep my word. That night, while the tribe tended fires and whispered among themselves, Nayeli and Lorenzo worked side by side again, splinting bones, checking pulses, mixing herbs with the supplies he'd brought. The old woman stirred once, her eyes unfocused, then fell back into sleep. She'll live, Lorenzo said. She's tougher than she looks. So am I, Nayeli said quietly. He smiled. I noticed. She looked at him then, really looked. The lines of his face, the scar above his brow, the steadiness in his eyes. Something inside her chest shifted. You risked your life for people you don't know, she said. Why? Because somebody once did the same for my mother, he replied. And because doing nothing would have haunted me worse than dying here. Her throat tightened. No man had ever spoken to her like that. Not with bravado, but with truth stripped clean of pride. Near midnight, the elder returned. The woman rests. You've done enough. When the sun rises, you leave. Lorenzo nodded. I will. He started to gather his things, but Nayeli's voice cut through the quiet. I'll guide him out myself. The elder frowned. That's not wise. It's necessary, she said. The land beyond is dangerous after the rain. He saved our blood tonight. I'll see he reaches his road alive. The old man studied her long and hard before finally nodding. At first light, then. But remember who you are, child of Grey Wind. She met his gaze without flinching. I remember. When the elder left, Lorenzo turned to her. You don't have to. I do, she said. It's not just about you anymore. There are debts between us now. Between families, between blood. He hesitated, then said, What happens when your people see you walking beside someone like me? Then they'll remember what they saw tonight, she replied. And if they forget, I'll remind them. He smiled faintly. You really are something else. Don't get used to it, she said, but the corner of her mouth lifted. Before dawn, they packed the remaining medicine and prepared the horses. The air smelled clean after the storm, and the first rays of light spilled down the canyon walls like blessing. As Lorenzo adjusted his saddle, Nayeli stood beside him, arms crossed. You should know the path ahead is rough, flooded in places. I've ridden worse. I believe you, she said, but this time you won't ride alone. He looked up sharply. You're coming with me? I started this when I let you through, she said simply. I'll finish it. My tribe can hate me later. He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. The decision in her eyes wasn't one a man could talk away. Then we ride, he said. She swung onto her horse in one fluid motion, the morning light catching her braids. When she looked at him, something fierce and calm burned there. Let's see if mercy can ride faster than judgment, she said. And as they rode out together, the canyon behind them echoed with the first call of a hawk, a cry that sounded, just faintly, like freedom. Morning broke hard and bright, sunlight slicing across the wet canyon walls. Steam rose from the mud like ghosts leaving the earth. Two riders moved single file through the pass, Lorenzo first, guiding his pack horse, Nayeli close behind, scanning the ridges like she expected the world to challenge every step. Neither spoke much at first. The silence between them wasn't heavy, just cautious, like two people testing the strength of something new. The storm had carved deep scars into the trail, fallen rocks, pools of red clay water, the occasional broken limb of a mesquite tree. It made progress slow. Twice Lorenzo dismounted to clear debris, while Nayeli held the horses steady. Her hands, strong and scarred, moved with patience. She didn't rush the animals, didn't curse the mud. She treated the land the way one treats an old relative, tough but deserving of respect. By midday, the heat returned with a vengeance. The air shimmered, and the smell of sage and damp dust filled their lungs. They stopped by a patch of cottonwoods to rest. Lorenzo poured water into his hat for the horses, then splashed some on his face. You ever think about leaving all this? He asked, voice quiet. Nayeli glanced toward the horizon. Leaving where? This is all there is. I mean, leaving the duty, the guarding, the weight. You ever dream about a life that's yours? She hesitated, brushing a strand of wet hair from her cheek. Dreams get people killed out here. Sometimes, he said, but sometimes they keep you alive. She studied him for a long moment. You talk like a preacher. Been called worse, he said with a grin. That earned him a small, reluctant laugh. Soft, but real. It surprised both of them. They rode on through the afternoon. The land opened wide now, flat scrubs stretching toward distant mountains painted purple by heat haze. A hawk circled above, its cry sharp against the wind. Lorenzo kept glancing back at her. The way she sat the saddle, straight, balanced, sure, like she was part of the horse, part of the desert itself. He'd met plenty of strong people on the trail, men and women both, but none who carried strength like she did. Quiet, lived in, not something to prove, but something to protect. When the sun began to fall, they found a small creek still swollen from the rain. The water ran clear and cold. They made camp there, setting up on opposite sides of a low fire. The light flickered against their faces, softening edges that life had carved too deep. For a while they sat without speaking, listening to the water talk to the stones. Finally, Nayeli said, "You miss your mother." It wasn't a question. Lorenzo poked at the fire with a stick. "Every day. She taught me more about courage than any man ever did. I guess losing her taught me the rest." "How so?" He looked up, eyes reflecting the flames. "She always said there's two kinds of pain, the kind that breaks you and the kind that teaches you. I spent a long time confusing the two." Nellie nodded slowly. "I know that kind of confusion." He watched her, waiting. She didn't look at him when she spoke again. "Actually, when I was 16, soldiers came through our land. Said they were clearing ground for a fort. My father stood in their way." Her voice thinned, but didn't tremble. "They shot him. My mother died the next winter from sickness and grief. After that, I swore no one would ever take from us again." Lorenzo's chest tightened. "That's why you guard the pass." "It's all I know." She stared into the fire. "Being strong, it's the only thing that ever kept me alive." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Maybe, but being alive and being free aren't always the same thing." She met his eyes then, and for a long heartbeat the world narrowed to the space between them. The crackle of the fire, the sound of water, the shared ache of two people who'd lost too much. "You talk too much, cowboy," she said finally. He smiled. "Maybe, but you listen." Later that night, the wind shifted cooler. Nayeli lay awake on her blanket, staring at the stars, listening to Lorenzo's steady breathing from across the fire. She wondered how a man could carry so much sorrow and still find gentleness. She'd spent her whole life mistaking gentleness for weakness. Now she wasn't sure anymore. Before sleep took her, she whispered something to the dark, a prayer half in English, half in Navajo. Let me remember what this feels like. Peace that doesn't come from fear. By morning, the desert was already hot again. They broke camp early, following the trail east toward the settlement. The terrain turned rougher, a narrow ridge twisting between canyons. Twice they had to lead the horses single file, hugging the wall where loose gravel threatened to slide. Midway through the climb, Naili's horse stumbled. She swung down fast, checking its front leg. Twisted, she muttered. Can't push her farther today. Lorenzo scanned the ridge. We're halfway to the top. There's a ledge a quarter-mile ahead, shade and water runoff. We can stop there. She hesitated, then nodded. He helped her lead the horse, steady and slow, until they reached the small plateau. From there they could see the valley stretching miles below, sunlight glittering on wet stone, endless and raw. Naili exhaled. Feels like standing on the edge of the world. Maybe we are, he said. She turned to him, squinting against the light. You ever stop running? He shrugged. Maybe I just never had a reason to. And now, he smiled faintly. Now I'm starting to think reasons find you when you stop looking. Something in the way he said it made her pulse catch. She looked away, pretending to check the horse's leg. That evening they shared jerky and a handful of dried peaches from Lorenzo's pack. The sunset bled red over the canyon rim. For the first time, Nayeli didn't rush the silence. It felt comfortable. You think the children will still be alive when we get there? She asked quietly. He hesitated. If we make good time, maybe. Fever's a cruel thing. She nodded, her jaw tightening. Then we ride before dawn. He studied her profile. The strength, the resolve, the pain she never voiced. You carry the world like it's yours to fix. She gave a dry laugh. Somebody has to. You ever think maybe fixing it isn't your job? Then whose is it? Everybody's, he said, together. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she picked up a pebble and tossed it into the dying fire. The sparks rose like tiny stars. Together, she repeated under her breath, testing the word as if it were something new. Later that night, a distant howl echoed from the hills. Coyotes. Lorenzo stirred, sitting up. They're close. They won't bother us, she said, rolling onto her side. They know what's stronger. He smiled in the dark. That mean you or me? Both, she murmured, already half asleep. He lay back down, staring at the sky. He didn't believe in signs, but he couldn't shake the feeling that fate had chosen this road, this woman, for a reason he wasn't yet supposed to understand. By dawn, they were back on the trail. The air smelled of creosote and heat. The ridge leveled out, and the world ahead widened again. Dry plains stretching toward a thin line of cottonwoods in the distance. The settlement's just beyond those trees, Lorenzo said. Maybe another day's ride. Nellie shaded her eyes. Then we're close. He nodded, but his expression was tight. Close isn't safe yet. As if summoned by his words, thunder rumbled again. Not from the sky, but from the ground. A flash flood, born from the storm 2 nights before, roared through the lower valley, cutting their route in two. The riverbed they needed to cross was now a churning mess of mud and debris. Lorenzo cursed under his breath. We can't wait it out. The fever won't. Nellie scanned the bank, calculating. There's a crossing upstream. Narrow but dangerous. You think the horses can make it? They'll have to. She swung into the saddle before he could stop her. If I go first, follow my line. Don't hesitate. He followed, heart hammering. The water came up to the horses' bellies, current strong enough to steal breath. Nellie leaned forward, guiding her mount with calm precision. Halfway across, a log slammed against Lorenzo's horse, knocking it sideways. Lorenzo, she shouted. He lost grip on the reins. The horse panicked, slipping in the current. Nellie wheeled her mount around, plunging into the torrent. For a moment, all he saw was water and chaos. Then her arm reached through, powerful and steady, grabbing his collar. Hold on, she yelled. He did. Together they fought the current, muscles screaming, until the horses found footing and staggered onto the far bank, drenched but alive. They sat there gasping side by side on the muddy shore. Lorenzo looked at her, soaked, fierce, wild in the fading light, and realized he'd never seen anything so alive. You saved my life, he said between breaths. She shook her head. You would have done the same. Maybe, he said, but not as beautifully. That made her laugh. A sound that startled even her. deep and unguarded. For the first time, the walls she'd spent a lifetime building didn't feel like protection. They felt like prison bars, and this man had just shown her the way out. As the last of the sun dipped below the ridge, they turned toward the distant settlement. Two figures cut against the red horizon, riding toward whatever waited beyond the river. By the time Lorenzo and Nayeli reached the settlement, night had already fallen. The small town sat wedged between cottonwood trees in the shallow edge of a dried riverbed, lanterns flickering like a string of lost stars. The air smelled of sickness, sweat, smoke, and fear. Children's cries drifted from the schoolhouse that had been turned into a makeshift infirmary. A woman stepped out onto the porch, her face pale and drawn beneath the brim of a bonnet. When she saw the riders, she froze. "Outsiders," someone hissed from the doorway. "One of them's Navajo." Lorenzo slid off his horse. "We brought medicine," he called. "The fever's spread. You need this." But the townsfolk didn't move. Fear held them like barbed wire. One man lifted a rifle. "We don't take help from savages." Nayeli's hand went to the knife at her belt, but Lorenzo caught her wrist. "Don't," he murmured. "They're scared. Not evil, just scared." His calm voice, his steady eyes broke the tension just enough. He dropped his saddlebag onto the dirt, opened it wide, and held up a glass vial. "This will bring the fever down," he said. "It saved children in 2 towns before this one. Let us help." The woman on the porch hesitated. "You're lying," she whispered. "That medicine's for white folk, not—" "Ma'am," he said gently, "it's for anyone who wants to live." A long silence. Then a child coughed from inside. Deep, wet, desperate. The woman's shoulders slumped. She stepped aside. "Come in," she said. "But if you're wrong—" "I'm not," he said. "We won't waste a second." Inside, the air was thick and stifling. Beds lined the floor. Straw mats, blankets, small bodies shivering beneath them. Nayeli's heart clenched at the sight. She knelt beside a girl no older than 8, skin burning with fever. "Water," she said softly. "Now." The mother hesitated only a moment before fetching a tin cup. Nayeli cradled the girl's head, spooning the mixture Lorenzo prepared. "It's bitter," she murmured, "but it'll break the fire inside you." The girl's lips parted weakly. "It hurts." "I know, little one," Nayeli said, "but pain is how your body remembers it wants to live." Lorenzo looked over, watching her. Her touch, once a weapon, was now gentleness itself. Something in that quiet moment shifted inside him, like a door opening. Hours passed. They worked without rest, moving from child to child. Lorenzo measured doses, checked pulses. Nayeli cooled foreheads with wet cloths, her hands steady despite exhaustion. At one point, the man with the rifle came back. He stood in the doorway, watching. When he finally spoke, his voice was hoarse. "That one," he pointed to the smallest boy. "He's my nephew. Can you save him?" Nayeli looked up, sweat streaking her face. "We'll try, but you'll help us. Get clean water. Boil it first." He hesitated, then nodded and ran out. Fear had turned to trust, or at least to desperation. Sometimes they were the same thing. By dawn, the worst had passed. The fever began to break. One by one, the children's breathing eased, their bodies cooling under the damp cloths. The air smelled cleaner now, not of sickness, but of hope. Nayeli sank to her knees beside the last bed. Her muscles trembled, but her spirit felt light for the first time in years. She turned to Lorenzo. "They'll live." He smiled, lines of fatigue carving deep around his eyes. "Then so will we." The townspeople gathered at the door, silent, uncertain. The woman in the bonnet stepped forward, clutching her hands. We were wrong," she said quietly. "About you. About her." Lorenzo looked at Nayeli, then back at them. "Fear makes fools of all of us," he said. "What matters is what you do after." The man with the rifle lowered his head. "If there's anything we can do to repay you—" "Treat her like you'd treat me," Lorenzo said. "That'll be enough." Later that morning, as the sun climbed over the hills, Nayeli walked down to the river. The water had receded, leaving the earth damp and shining. She washed the dirt and sweat from her arms, watching the ripples fade. Lorenzo joined her, carrying 2 tin cups of coffee. He handed her one. "You don't look like someone who just saved a town." She gave him a tired smile. "Maybe I'm not used to being seen as a savior." "You were more than that," he said. "You were the reason they listened." She stared at the water. You still believe strength and mercy can live in the same heart? I don't just believe it, he said. I saw it. Her throat tightened. You make it sound easy. It's not, he said. But maybe that's what makes it worth it. They drank in silence for a while, the air filled with morning birds and the sound of the current. Somewhere behind them, laughter echoed from the schoolhouse. Children, awake and alive. When they turned back, a small crowd waited near the gate. The woman in the bonnet stepped forward again, holding something wrapped in cloth. This belonged to my husband, she said. He was a soldier once, a good man before the fever took him. I think it should go to you. Nellie unfolded the bundle. Inside was a hand-carved pendant, a silver star surrounded by a ring of turquoise. It's beautiful, she said softly. It's peace, the woman replied. Maybe you'll wear it better than we did. Niley looked at Lorenzo, uncertain. He nodded. You should take it. For a moment she hesitated, then slipped it over her neck beside the old amulet her grandmother had given her. Two histories once divided, now resting side by side. That night they camped just outside town, under a sky clean of clouds. The firelight painted their faces gold. Lorenzo leaned back against his saddle, gazing at the stars. So, he said, what happens when you go back to your people? They'll question me, Nayeli said. They'll say I broke the code, trusted an outsider. And what will you tell them? She looked into the fire. That mercy isn't weakness. That love isn't surrender. That sometimes strength means knowing when to open a gate instead of guarding it. He smiled. That sounds like something your grandmother might have said. She's probably laughing at me right now, Niley said. All those years I spent trying to be stone. Maybe she's proud, he said, because you learned what stone can do. Not just block, but build. Her eyes softened. And what about you, cowboy? You gonna ride on to the next town? He thought for a long time before answering. I've been riding my whole life, he said. Maybe it's time to stop running and start belonging. She studied him, reading the truth in his voice. And where do you belong? He met her gaze. Anywhere you are. The fire cracked between them. Then she reached across the space, her hand finding his. The touch was simple, but it felt like something ancient. Two worlds finally shaking hands through them. Dawn came pink and quiet. They packed slowly, not speaking much. The air felt different now, lighter, full of possibility. When they reached the edge of the ridge, Nayeli turned back to look at the town one last time. Children chasing each other outside. Laughter floating across the field. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel the need to guard anything. Lorenzo rode beside her. You ready? She nodded. I am now. As the sun climbed higher, they started down the trail together. Two silhouettes merging into the light, leaving behind the ghosts that had kept them apart. Epilogue. Weeks later, travelers spoke of a story spreading through the desert. About a Navajo woman and a cowboy who saved a dying town. Some said they built a small home near the river, where the canyon met the open plains. Others swore they rode off to new horizons, healing wherever they went. No one really knew. Maybe that's the point. Some stories aren't meant to end. They're meant to keep teaching. Because somewhere in the red dust and long shadows of the West, two hearts had proved that strength and love can live in the same breath, and that even the hardest stone can learn to bloom. Question for the audience. If you were in Niley's place, would you have trusted a stranger who once belonged to the world that hurt yours? Or would you have chosen safety over mercy? Tell me what you think. Would you have opened the gate or kept it closed?